our work and lives run on WhatsApp. It is not true for the Western world, but for most of the rest of the world, that is the case. It's an app we open 5, 10, 15 times a day. And everything runs. We need to build for WhatsApp, and we need to build in WhatsApp, which means that from day one, we said outside of connecting your phone, there is nothing else that happens on an app that is other than WhatsApp. How you talk to where your agent lives is on WhatsApp. And sometimes I'm actively called, but a lot of times I am doing things proactively. And that was the other design principle for us going in, that your agent is your own number. This is my personal WhatsApp, right? So this is where Perisclaw lives. So if you guys can see this is essentially Perisclaw, right? So this is me, my morning update. It's telling me who I need to get back to, my to-dos, who am I waiting on. So this is interesting. But I think where it becomes very valuable is when it can do autonomous tasks for you, right? So I'm saying, hey, Claw, let me just say coordinate a time with every
or material that actually goes over there. The whole idea is that you get some amount of accountability and peer support to learn to use these tools, right? Even those are barely at almost no charge. You can also check out some of the demo videos from last week. We have had some phenomenal products that have been developed, right? So we launch one new one soon. I'll keep you posted. Probably this week or next week we'll actually start one more. Right. So how do you get to know? So we obviously have a website where we put up these new sessions that are coming up. Yeah, and if you are, interested in joining our WhatsApp group, you can do that also. We've kind of kept it very high signal, low noise, but that's a good place to be part of if you are interested in being in touch. Right. I'll post a link for that later. Awesome. So before we jump into today's session, a couple of housekeeping rules. Number one is, given there is such a large audience, I would recommend you to not unmute and disrupt the session. If you have any question, just put it up on chat. If it is important or related to the current context, I'll probably interrupt Swapnika. Swapnika herself can actually see it and answer those questions. Otherwise, we'll have some time towards the end to answer those questions, right? And these recording goes on YouTube, so please be aware, do not share any sensitive material. And if you do, let me know so that we can actually edit it before it goes live. Okay, so that's about it. Yeah, with that, we'll get started with today's session. I'm so great, happy to have Swapnika joining us today. Swapnika is the founder of Periscope and Perisclaw. I heard about Periscope a few weeks ago when I was interacting with one of my clients, and they spoke highly of how Periscope is solving a lot of their problems. And luckily, when our community asked for a session on WhatsApp, her name came up again, and I'm very happy that she agreed to do a session on such a short notice. And I'm really excited to see today's session. Super. Swapnika, over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vala. Just a quick check. Can everyone see me, hear me clearly? Fantastic. Super. So, folks, I think quick introduction. Let me actually share my screen and then we'll sort of get into the introduction. But is the screen visible? Fantastic. Super. So my name is Swapnika. I'm one of the co-founders of two companies now, Periscope and Perisclaw, but the underlying theme being WhatsApp. Right. A quick background about myself. I run two businesses now, but before this, I was a consultant with McKinsey in their pharma practice. After that, I worked with the Tatas for a few years, and we started up a couple of years ago. We've been building communications platforms for several years now, right? Our first company was actually building communication layer on top of Telegram and Discord for the Web3 ecosystem. But of course, we started at the fag end of the Web3 ecosystem, so that did not make sense for us. But because we understood communications as a layer, or CPaaS as a layer deeply, the next logical step for us was just WhatsApp, right? I think, as all of you know, our work and lives run on WhatsApp. It is not true for the Western world, but for most of the rest of the world, that is the case. It's an app we open 5, 10, 15 times a day. And everything runs there, right? So when we started Periscope, it started with the thesis that operations for a lot of companies run on WhatsApp, not just marketing. And the solutions out there were solving entirely for marketing, right? So your WhatsApp business API, your customer support, etc.
ఆ కంటెంట్ అర్థమైంది. ఆయన ఎప్పటిదో
Yeah. So we decided that we will double down and build an operations layer for WhatsApp. So automating operations on WhatsApp was the one quick line for what we do in Periscope. And then we've now naturally extended that to Perisclaw. And I think for this session, what will be most relevant is Perisclaw, right? But before jumping in, I think the context is helpful in terms of what Periscope does. So Periscope is an operations automation layer on WhatsApp. We serve everyone from the likes of, Swiggy to Aditya Birla, Cast24. We also serve political parties like, the Indian National Congress, the BJP, so quite a wide range. And we serve a large number of businesses globally, right? So we serve businesses in India, LATAM, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Europe, but we also serve countries like Rwanda, Iraq, Uruguay. That just shows you the breadth of WhatsApp usage across the world. So I think the one deep belief that we have is that of all the channels where AI agents become native, WhatsApp is probably the most important channel for the rest of the world. And when I mean rest of the world, the non-US world. The second bit is we understand WhatsApp deeply, right? Now, having worked with this ecosystem for really long and having worked with regular WhatsApp numbers. So we don't work with WhatsApp Business API. We work with regular WhatsApp numbers. So your personal numbers, your corporate numbers, we work by just scanning the QR, etc. We understand the quirks of Meta and WhatsApp. Now, we've done this for so long that we know where it breaks, we know what kind of issues it has, etc. So that's the kind of knowledge that is very valuable when you're building agents on this, because this is not a channel that is very simple like email that has been deeply understood, right? It is a channel that is broken in many, many ways. And that understanding helps to know where things can work and where things can break. And I think the third quick piece is the reason Perisclaw happened was because for the longest time we were serving enterprises and small businesses, etc. But we had consumers and prosumers come to us repeatedly and say, "Hey, my WhatsApp is a mess. Is there a way I can solve that issue?" But it never made sense to us before this year, because the way Periscope works is it is a layer on top of your WhatsApp, but it's a separate app, right? And for consumers, that never makes sense. You're already on WhatsApp. Why will you download a second separate app? So we never ventured into that. But earlier this year, when OpenClaw happened, when we realized you could actually build agents that live in the systems or the channels where you work, it just clicked for us, right? It is what I think people had been asking us for a really long time. And we just said we are the right people to be building it. So we just doubled down and built that. Quickly going into what Perisclaw is, right? So Perisclaw is an executive assistant that lives on your WhatsApp. When we started building, the one thing for us that was very clear is you will now see a lot of, I think literally in the last 1 month in the US, you've seen a bunch of new personal AI agent companies come up like Town and Lindy and Thine, etc. The difference is a lot of them sometimes are a completely new app, or they're on platforms that you as a user are not using as often, right? They are on Slack, they're on Teams. Yes, you're using them from time to time, but they're not on the one channel where it matters the most to you. So we said we need to build for WhatsApp, and we need to build in WhatsApp, which means that from day one, we said outside of connecting your phone, there is nothing else that happens on an app that is other than WhatsApp. How you talk to where your agent lives is on WhatsApp. Where you talk to the agent is on WhatsApp. Where your agent executes actions is from WhatsApp, on WhatsApp, but also across all the channels, but it reports back to you on WhatsApp, right? So everything, when I say a native AI agent on WhatsApp, everything for Perisclaw runs on WhatsApp, right? This is just basically to say that for India and the rest of the world, WhatsApp is the lifeblood. Everything sort of runs there, right? So the agent has to live in WhatsApp for you. And then I think the second decision that we were very clear on, and you will see this with a bunch of other AI startups, is we were very clear this is not a bot you work with. Right? With WhatsApp, what happens is it is a deeply personal space for you. There is so much information there that you would not share with anyone, even your spouse, right? It is a very personal space. So it made no sense that you had all these companies that said, hey, add this bot to your group and the bot can do certain things. One, you should not be trusting an external number with any information that is so private. WhatsApp has your OTPs, it has like a bunch of things that come there. And if you see that as a system that then connects to other your email, etc., it becomes really sensitive, right? The second is you shouldn't have the mental load of saying, hey, this is where I want to add my agent. This is where I want to do this. That's not how you work with an EA. An EA has access to everything. An EA typically, if you had an executive assistant, would know where should I step in, where should I back off. And sometimes I'm actively called, but a lot of times I am doing things proactively. And that was the other design principle for us going in, that your agent is your own number. It is no other number that you're adding. It lives in your self chat. So in WhatsApp, you have a chat with your name. So it'll be called Bala or Swapnika, etc. That is your self chat. For a lot of people, they dump links, etc. stuff there. That's what you use it for. But this is where your agent lives, right? It talks to you there, but it can be called in any other chat. So it can be invoked in any other chat, or you can also give it full access to other chats. So we'll come to how that agent is set up. But that's, talking through the second design principle, which is your agent works through your own number. And then there are a bunch of things the agent does for you, right? Or my Claw does for me. And this is where it becomes valuable. It does very simple things, but it can also do very complex things. Like, for instance, the most common use case that we had heard when we started off having conversations with people is, I just miss things on WhatsApp. Like, I've told someone I will send a deck. I've told someone I'm going to meet, and I've completely forgotten that. I also miss things some other people have told me. They said they will get back to me. I don't remember. Someone has tagged me on a group with 500 people. I have not seen it, right? I have like 500, 100 messages. I don't know where I should focus versus not. So one big thing that Perisclaw does is it tracks your commitments, your tasks, what is waiting on you, what you are waiting for someone else to get back with, where you're mentioned, all of that. Then there are simple things like reminders and schedule messages, right? Remind me to do this, remind me to do that, add a task here, all of that it does very well. You want to sort of schedule messages, hey, wish mom birthday on this day, schedule this message to someone else, asking them about the update, etc. So that as and when you're thinking about things, you can shoot it off and those are scheduled for you. So that's the simple things it can do. Then there are the more complex things where it becomes incredibly valuable, right? You might want to set up an automated routine periodically. So you say, like, for instance, investors have told us that, hey, I have a lot of conversations with people. My team needs to know that, but I can't forward that context. So you can simply set up a routine to say, hey, every day or every end of the week, go through all of my chats, figure out which ones are the chats with, new companies that I'm talking to, summarize those chats and forward it to this, my co-founder in this investment firm or to my team. Right? That's one automated routine. So you can set up multiple such automated routines. Every day in the morning, go through all my customer chats and come back to me with where are their escalations, who do I need to get back to. That's an automated routine. So that's where it becomes incredibly powerful because it can do things with a certain amount of intelligence and judgment in a repeated manner. Then there are autonomous jobs, right, which are slightly different from automated routines in the sense that you can give it a job and it will just go do it for you. So you can say, hey, and this is a common issue for people across the board, that you want to plan a trip, you want to plan some activity together, and it's a pain just coordinating with people. So you say, hey, Claw, these are 5 people. I need to find a slot for a webinar next week. Figure out a slot. It will create a persistent session. It is active for the period that it defines as, it needs to be active. It listens to people. It ignores the messages where it's not needed. And wherever it's needed, it'll tag people, it'll remind people, it'll get a slot, and it'll even block it on your calendar, right? So everything that an EA does, it can do for you. Then, of course, there are all these things around. It can connect to my calendar, so it has full knowledge of my calendar. It can connect to my email. It is my personal wiki, because today you're anyway dumping so many things in that self chat that you want organized. So it becomes the personal wiki for you. So your house list is organized separately from your work list, from all the quotes and like bookmarks you want to get back to, all of that. Right. And finally, the two components that make it incredibly powerful is memory. So memory of yourself, of course, especially on WhatsApp, you are not an individual, right? You are a colleague to a person. You speak very differently with that person than how you would speak with your family and how you would speak with your friend. So understanding all of that well, your tone of voice, your preferences, and also understanding your relationships well, right? So for instance, today it does contact enrichment very well. So if my friend says, Divya's like, hey, I got a new job in this company, it automatically stores that. So next time I'm meeting Divya, it says, hey, I know you're meeting Divya for lunch today. Did you know she just got a new job? Or this person had a new baby? So all of that, which you had to otherwise remember, it can do for you. Right? And then there are this entire world it opens up with MCP connectors. It can connect to, we're just launching this in the next couple of days, but you can connect it to Claude to ask questions, analytics, Notion, Granola, Slack, all of that jazz. But that's a little bit about, I think, Perisclaw. But coming to, I guess, the core and the meat of the session and why all of you are here, right? The anatomy of what goes into building a WhatsApp native AI agent. There are a bunch of different things to it. What we are is what you would in today's AI terms call a harness, right? We are not the model. We of course use a bunch of different models to route the requests, but we have an entire harness that is built on top of WhatsApp. And there are a bunch of components of this harness. So we'll walk through them one by one. And if you have sort of any questions about a particular part of the harness, just let me know, and I'd be happy to answer. Right. The first one for a harness is what we would call the channel. Now, the channel is where essentially the agent responds towards the end, or where the agent lives, right? So your channel can be, for the way OpenClaw works is your channel can actually be WhatsApp, it can be Slack, it can be email, etc. Right? We don't use OpenClaw, we have our own harness, but your channel is any of these places where you're talking or interacting with the agent. For us, that channel is WhatsApp. Right? And this is a bit that we have built completely in-house, right? And because we understand this ecosystem. So it handles everything from what your incoming messages are, so messages, reactions, voice notes, media, all the input messages sit in the channel, and all the outgoing messages go via the channel, right? So whatever you're sending, your responses, actions, all of that goes via the channel. So this is the first sort of core part of any harness, which is what are the channels where it is active. And for us, that is WhatsApp. The second part of the harness, and this is what makes it like valuable versus something that's very basic, is how and what goes into the context. This is called the context assembly of the channel, right? So for us, there are a core set of files that go into every channel. So for instance, every context. So you need to be able to tell the agent to give a bunch of instructions to the agent, right? So you have files like the soul, which basically defines the soul of the agent. Who are you? What do you do? How do you behave? How do you write? What do you not do? When do you interrupt a user? When do you not interrupt a user? All the entire soul of how an agent should behave sort of sits there. Then there are files like agent files, user files, etc. So agent files again defines what you can do, what you can't do, what are the kind of toolkits you have, what are the kind of skills you have. All of that sort of is something that's defined there. Then you have the memory of the user. Then you have user files, right? So this is where it stores what is the user's time zone, what does the user prefer, what are users' relationships. All of the context of the user itself is sort of stored here. So that is one part of it. Where this becomes powerful is how do you assemble the components of WhatsApp on top of this, right? So you need to be able to pass it some amount of chat history, right? So you want to be able to pass it, let's say, a few thousand messages or chats, like specific chats, history of specific chats. Who are the participants in their chats? What are their numbers? What are their names, right? What are the last set of tool calls that you have done? So it knows what did I do before this. So it's not just working blind every single time. So there is a lot that goes into building this chat history. You need to tell it what is the time, what is the state you're in, what are the tools and skill sets that are available for you, so you can actually call them progressively, and a bunch of rules and constraints that you have set on top of that, right? So the entire permission system on top of that. So this is a core part of it, and this becomes your context assembly. And then from context assembly, we come to the part where the agent is acting. This is when you say an agent is running, this is what you mean, right? This is what we call the runtime loop. And runtime loop talks about everything from how the agent thinks, what actions it takes, what is it noting, so what is it observing, and the repeat actions, right? Not every runtime loop has to end in a message. So your instinct is to say, hey, yes, the agent responds. That's not always the case, right? So this is replies yes, but the runtime loop, you can also say, hey, schedule these jobs for me. So the scheduled jobs becomes the end action, right? It can create a persistent session for you. That becomes the end action of a runtime loop. It can go act on a calendar, pull something from the calendar, pull something from email. So all of those, there are different actions which become sort of, core to the runtime loop. And then error handling. So this is again a big part of what the agent does, right? So what happens if you're going in, if the user has asked something that's going to cause you to go into a loop? How many times do you retry something that has failed? What are the fallbacks? How, if you have been given 5 or 6 messages back to back, how do you sort of, handle these interruptions midterm? All of this becomes very valuable for you to know, and that's what the runtime loop handles. So actions, but also error handling. And that part, which is knowing where to stop, knowing where to sort of, say, hey, this is how many times I'm going to do, is what will help your agent to sort of deliver value, but also what will help with things like cost overruns. And we realized this the hard way. Like one of the earlier like versions that we had, it would go into a loop, and we would have like people spending, I think once we had someone spending about $1,200 in a day, right? So those are the kind of hits we have taken because we said this is a learning experience and we will spend on this. So worthwhile, I guess, knowing how you do error handling. And then this is the session management, is what you call sort of, the garbage cleaning aspect of this, right? Because you have limited context windows. Like this says, context windows are a budget, right? Which means that you cannot keep loading stuff to the context window. So after, but at the same time, what the agent has done in the history is very valuable to you. The agent has, let's say, you've done this 5 times. The agent should know, hey, I don't want to do this the 6th time. So there's some amount of that needs to be stored. So there is something called compaction that we run, which is you're squeezing a long session, and you would have seen this with Claude and GPT, etc. They compact the sessions after a certain time. They prune the session. So after turn, you're cleaning up tool calls, you're cleaning up everything that is not necessary, and then you're only writing the stuff that is necessary. So that's the session management messy part of things. Again, very, very valuable, especially if someone's looking to build something and you want to ensure that your costs don't overrun. This becomes a critical piece of that. Right. Coming to permissions, I think this is the bit that we spent a lot of time on and we get a lot of questions on, right? I think the big fear for a lot of people is to say that, hey, Claude and GPT is fine because it is restricted in what it can do. Even if it runs away and does something, the damage is minimal. But my WhatsApp has so many relationships that it can't just run and like do things that can damage my reputation. And that is a very fair risk, right? And that is something that is core to how we went about designing Perisclaw. And we said there will be a range of permissions, right? One starting with you defining what your agent can touch, right? By default, the way this is structured is all your chats are read only. But you can very well say, hey, I don't want you to even read these chats. These are personal to me. I don't want these to go into any kind of, memory you're building of me, any kind of contact enrichment, any tasks that you're surfacing. No, these are sensitive. These you don't touch. There are some that I can give you sort of specific permissions to say, hey, I give you autonomous access to listen and write on this, but only for a short period of time, right? So you can control the level at which your agent can get involved. And then you have scoped grants for all the other tools, right? So calendar, I can say that, hey, I'll give you read-only access, but I will not give you write access to calendar. Likewise for my drive. Likewise for email. I want you to read my email, but I never want you to send emails. So I want you to only draft emails, never want you to send them. So all of those scoped accesses you can set. This is enforced in a secured runtime and your private isolated container, right? So this is the aspect about security. So the way Perisclaw is designed is for every single number is a completely isolated encrypted container that it gets, right? So it's not like a container or it has many, many numbers running. That's not the case. Only you and your agent have access to that container. It is set up that all these issues that we set it up such that we have things you can track against prompt engineering, like a bunch, like the kind of intelligence that you need to ensure that your data is not touched or misused. All of those go into permissions and secure handling, right? That's essentially this piece of the harness. Then coming to the piece of the harness around memory. And I think, like I mentioned earlier, there are 2 types of memory, right? There is memory of you as the user, so whoever the number belongs to. And this is more long running. So this is where it learns everything from, hey, it looks like Swapnika has these 5 chats which seem like family chats, but she's very active on. These seem like her friends. She has a son. This is where she stays. All of that, some that you have told it, but a lot of it is picking from context. My preferences, my tone of voice. So all of that it builds, which is how an agent that you use on day one is very different from an agent that you use on in day, whatever, 60, right? It has built that knowledge of you. Then the second valuable piece is everything around your other people, like everyone, how it treats your contacts, right? So again, so much of native language, native insights are there on WhatsApp. So what is happening with my family, what's happening with my friends, what's happening with different people. So that is where the contact enrichment piece comes, right? Today you have to remember who does what are their life updates, etc. So all of that gets sort of, is a part of memory. And then finally, I think we come to the engines on top. Now, all of the base is fine, but you need to have a few engines, right? So the jobs engine is basically what runs these tasks for you. So you want to set up these long running autonomous work. So all of that is the jobs engine. It also has something called the heartbeat engine, where the agent wakes up on its own. It sort of runs a heartbeat to say, hey, morning, I'm checking all your chats to know what you need to do, afternoon, evening. So it runs a heartbeat. Triggers is everything that are trigger based, right? Like for instance, you say, hey, if this person messages me, then automatic tell me immediately. If my boss is pinging me, I need to know immediately, right? Or if these are the chats where there is any conversation happening where I'm tagged, I need to know immediately. So you are setting the triggers to say, if this happens, then do this. That's the trigger engine. And this is what it makes it an EA, right? Like its ability to schedule jobs, its ability to sort of based on triggers do actions. All of that is what makes it like a true EA. Skills, again, I think all of you now would have used a bunch of skill MD files, etc. It's not different from that. What is interesting here is what goes into the base files that are loaded every time to the agent and what goes into skills that you progressively call. Calendar, email, wiki, these are all skills, right? You don't need to tell the agent every time, hey, this is my calendar, even when you're asking it a question around weather. Like that doesn't make sense. The agent needs to say, no, this is a calendar question. I will pull the skill. I'll progressively load the skill on calendar and I will go ahead and do that. Right. So all of that is something that's possible. And just coming to, I guess, the last section of the harness itself, which is logging and telemetry. This is for this. There are two parts to this, right? There is a part to how do we make the agent more valuable for you? Because we structured this to be very secure, we structured this to say, hey, we will not get a lot of logs of what is happening to the end user. But if this needs to be valuable, we will give your agent all the logs it needs. So your agent knows, hey, this is where I'm failing. This is likely why I am failing. Can I go fix this? Right. So being able to give the detailed logs of everything that's happening on errors to your agent makes it incredibly valuable and makes it a self-healing loop is what we call it, right? It makes a mistake, you tell it it's a mistake, it heals itself and it doesn't repeat that. And that is what is powerful because the way WhatsApp is used by different people is very, very different. And being able to say, hey, my agent understands what kind of things I do and knows where it shouldn't make an issue is very valuable. Right? And then there's a second set of logs that we maintain, like cost logs, the number of tokens that are consumed, etc. So that logging is very valuable for us. So both of this, I think, should be part of any kind of WhatsApp native AI agent that you build. I'll spend very quickly a minute on, because all of you have been hearing about OpenClaw, Amaze, all of them. So I'll spend a minute on what this means for us, right? So just for context, when we started off, because this was something that we were still validating, we said we will build it as a hardened fork of OpenClaw. Even then, we knew OpenClaw was not something that we could rely on completely. We said the channel is ours, but we will leverage OpenClaw. We'll harden it with our security sort of constraints and build on top of it. And OpenClaw is good in a couple of ways, right? So it helps you connect to we were able to connect to calendar, email out of the box. So some of those skills, handling runtime, handling compaction, all of that, it gives you out of the box. But we hit challenges very, very quickly, right? One, because all of these agents are built to be generic. And the moment you're generic, you're losing a lot of value with being a specific focused agent. It never treated WhatsApp as a first-class channel. because it was just one other channel, there are so many things it was leaving on the table in terms of what all you can do on WhatsApp. It was treating WhatsApp very much the way you would treat Telegram, and that was not valuable. And it would break. We would not know where it would break. We would not know what kind of issues we were facing. We would not know why cost runs were happening. So we had a bunch of issues, and we said OpenClaw doesn't work for us. And then there was Hermes, which was coming up, and we said again they're valuable but still generic. So we cherry picked parts of Hermes, which is very good, which is progressive loading of skills, self-healing loops, all of that. And then we built our own harness, right? Which means that we can focus on WhatsApp and everything WhatsApp can do. We have full control on the runtime and cost. Everything that is loaded every time the agent is called and the cost. And this is months and months of work for us, right? So we are now at a point where we can say that we sort of own this end to end. Everything that's gone in has been built grounds up. And this is valuable because at the end of the day, the product is the harness. It is not the model. It is not WhatsApp. The harness is essentially a product. So I actually only have this slide. I don't have anything else after this. But I think what I'd like to do right now is do a quick demo of the product itself, Bala, right? So people can see how this works.
So Swapnika, we have a few questions. Do you want to take them right now or later?
We can actually take them right now. And then I think in 5 minutes, we'll come back to the demo.
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll probably take a few. They are on the chat, if we can see them.
Yeah.
I think most questions are around the security, will I get blacklisted, can enterprise use it, etc.
Sure. So let me start with the top. Do enterprises typically allow Perisclaw access to work calendar? My entire life is on my work calendar. So till now, this has been very much, personal use, right? Because I don't know how many of you know, we're still very much in sort of, a private alpha. So it's still very early access. We will sell to enterprise at some point, but from the sense that we're getting, I think that should, as long as we're able to sort of give scoped access, that should be possible. Right now, we only support Google as an ecosystem, or Gmail, Google Workspace as an ecosystem, so you can connect Gmail, but not Outlook. But we will have Outlook very soon. After that, I think we will get to a point where we will engage with enterprises if we see that there are more and more people who want to use it. But I don't have an answer for you right now. If it's a Google stack, people typically don't have a problem. Outlook, we will know shortly. How do you tie a conversation back to a specific conversation thread, especially if the response is interleaved amongst other conversation threads? Not very clear what you mean, Karthik, but I think a quick context is there are some primitives that are available to the agent, right? Like the agent knows the different chats. The agent knows that you're speaking, let's say, on your friend's chat, or you're speaking on your self chat, or you're speaking with your family. The agent also knows a contact, right? Because an agent knows that me chatting with Bala, the Bala is the same person who's on my DM, who's on 5 of my other groups, etc. Right? So after a point, it builds a judgment to say, hey, it is the same person, but these conversations are different. So I can't pull that conversation, give here. Or sometimes it says the conversation seem like it's the same thread. So that is some of the judgment that the agent takes. And that's where all the other sort of markdown files that we load become helpful. How does the underlying integration work compared to open source and unofficial integration that's supported by the likes of Bailey's, Evolution API? See, at the end of the day, if you're not using WhatsApp Business API, all the solutions underlying it are unofficial sort of, solutions, right? So there is Bailey's, there's WhatsApp app. We have built our own sort of, version of it. All of those are there. You will have to go with something like this because Meta is not working on anything for individual WhatsApp numbers, right? And if they do, we've worked with, we've been engaging with Meta for years and years now. It will be so slow and so limited in what it can do that it is going to be pointless after point. So you will have to go with one of these solutions, and you can either custom build it on your own, or you can go with something like Perisclaw. What is the risk of your number getting permanently blocked, etc., etc.? Okay. So now this is something that we get a lot for both Periscope and Perisclaw, right? The only time Meta blocks you, and it is not just for personal numbers, Meta does this extensively on WhatsApp Business API as well, is if you spam people. So if you connect to Perisclaw and you decide, hey, I want to use Perisclaw to send bulk messages to 50 of my groups for webinar updates, you will get banned immediately. And that is what matters, right? The way you use the platform matters. Outside of that, for Meta, a Perisclaw connection is no different than a WhatsApp web connection. It has no way to know that this is Perisclaw versus WhatsApp web or Bailey's or any of these other sessions. right? So that is not the risk. The risk always comes from how you go about using it. How risky is WhatsApp dependency as a platform, and how could you be impacted by change in meta policies? Are you planning to build voice assistants on WhatsApp? Money from Sarvam refer this. Yeah. So there are two types of WhatsApp risks, right? One is, I think, what you guys said, which is what happens to my number. And there it's very clear that if you use it to do any kind of anything that Meta feels is spammy, it is going to get blocked. The second thing is the kind of Meta risk that we have seen over a long time is less anything Meta doing intentionally and more just random pushes Meta is making, right? Meta just introduces features, it logs it, etc. And that can tend to break things. And now we've been in the ecosystem long enough to know that because we serve a very large base of clients globally, and because WhatsApp always rolls out in stages, it cannot roll out to everyone. It is a ecosystem that is used by 3 billion users. So it always rolls out to one small section of the set of people somewhere globally. And because we have a large base, we get to know that very quickly, right? So it typically is like, let's say the last time an issue happened around the way it handles what you call LIDs, it happened in Southeast Asia. And we knew that immediately, and we sort of, pushed a patch for it and then pushed that across the board. So 98, 99% of our clients never see this. It's only like a 1% that gets pushed to who see that, right? So that is not an issue. Voice is something we're working on, right? So WhatsApp calling and voice. So I think someone was saying, I saw a Twitter message today that said, hey, what if my agent could join my WhatsApp calls? There's so much knowledge that gets sort of left there and I'm speaking to clients, etc. It can do that on Gmeet today, but what if it could do WhatsApp? That is something that we're working on, and we will hopefully have something there soon, but we will get back to you. But very, very interesting space in terms of WhatsApp calling. Can we build on top of Perisclaw for a service we want to offer? There, I would recommend you actually use Periscope, because Periscope has a lot of what we do in Perisclaw, which is the underlying API. So you can build Perisclaw on top of Periscope. But Perisclaw is very opinionated, right? We have built it the way we think it should be used and the way we know people use it. So there isn't a lot of room for you to change the underlying architecture of Perisclaw. What you can change is how you use it, right? What kind of jobs you run, etc., etc. We don't get into white labeling, etc. We're a very small team that serves a very large base, so we just are very clear on what we do and don't do. The whole harness is the cloud. So how is data secure? How do you cater to data regulations, right? So yes, the harness is on cloud. For us, that becomes GCP. All of your data is, like I said, containerized, encrypted. Each of you get your own sort of encrypted container. In terms of data regulations, for us, we have servers across the world, right? If it has GDPR compliance, your servers are in Europe. If it is Southeast Asia, your servers are in Singapore. If it's India, your servers are in Mumbai. So we ensure that is the case. And we also work with a lot of clients, by the way, for DPDP regulation on WhatsApp, right? So now Aditya Birla is exactly that. So where the challenge becomes that, hey, my team uses WhatsApp. I can't take that away from my sales agent. It's a revenue impact. But with DPDP, customers need to be able to say that, hey, you have this data about me, delete. You have no way of doing that today. So we give you all the APIs for it. You have the APIs to remotely find this data, delete this data. So if you want to deploy this across a larger base of teams, you should be using Periscope, Perisclaw more for sort of customer use cases. If it makes sense, would be interesting to know how to build own personal use WhatsApp based agents. So Yashveer would love to sort of chat. So feel free to ping me. By the way, for everyone, just send me a request on LinkedIn. I'm very, very responsive. Talk us through your use cases, right? Today, by the way, Perisclaw can do 90-95% of what you want. You just prompt it. It is smart enough to do what you want. But if there are more custom use cases, like I have people from Nestle saying I wanted to go through or rather HUL saying I want to go through all the images I get and tell me what percentage are my product that are stocked, what percentage are competitors' product. Today we're relying on someone, but can your agent do it? It can do it, right? So sometimes we are also surprised by what it can do, and that's amazing. Especially as we keep improving the models. I know Fable got pulled today morning, but as we keep improving the models, it becomes quite valuable. Is it language agnostic? Absolutely. One of the first things I tested was in Telugu, because I'm a Telugu speaker. So I speak Telugu, Kannada, and Tamil, and it works in all three languages and works in most languages, right? Beautiful part about working in AI. How are you handling data residency? Again, servers are localized to the regions where they're there. All our LATAM servers are based in LATAM, for instance. One issue I've faced with Evolution API for WhatsApp, intermittent mobile push notification disruption, but unread messages count as visible after unlocking the phone. Has that been the case for your custom implementation as well? Not sure about Evolution API because a lot of this is something that we have custom built, including the channel. We don't face some of these issues. Yes, we've also faced issues with notifications once in a while, but I think it's largely solved now, right? We've solved most of this. Is Perisclaw only B2B or B2C also? Perisclaw is only B2C. Periscope is B2B, right? Periscope does everything for small, medium, large enterprises. Perisclaw was built to be consumer forward. We've suddenly had businesses using this saying, I am using it. The CEO says I'm using it, and they realize I want my entire team to use it because it's very valuable. So that's how we're getting into enterprises, but it is meant to be personal and consumer focused. What are the friction points of adoption or risks your clients have flagged or sales teams have faced? Perisclaw has been fewer, right? So for us with Periscope, there were two challenges we always faced. Periscope worked beautiful because it was like a unified inbox. You could give people access and a lot of that. It worked very well if you had corporate numbers. But if it was personal numbers, people didn't want to connect it because they're like, hey, this is, I can't give my company access. Even though I have company conversations, I can't give them access. Perisclaw, that was not the case, right? With Perisclaw, we will have an access code for you at the end of the this session. But the beautiful part is you can set it up in 30 seconds, right? Which means the adoption is very quick. I think the friction points for us with adoption has always been how do we communicate to people what all it can do? Because unfortunately, for a lot of people, they treat it as a chatbot. And it is very hard to sort of move them away from that chatbot kind of personality, right? It is not a chatbot. It is an agent. I would say talk to it the way you would want to talk to an EA. If it can't do it today, it should be able to do it tomorrow. But don't talk to it like a chatbot, and then you're going to struggle.
So probably we can jump into the demo. I think the questions will keep coming. So we'll spend some time towards the end.
Sounds good. Let me, I guess, stop sharing from here. And then share from, yeah. You guys can see my phone?
Yes.
So this is my personal WhatsApp, right? So this is where Perisclaw lives. So if you guys can see this, this is essentially Perisclaw, right? So this is me, my morning update. It's telling me who I need to get back to, my to-dos, who am I waiting on, right? Who needs to come back to me with the confirmation, who is supposed to get back to me, etc. So this is essentially my Perisclaw. Everything, all my conversations with my claw essentially happen here. The way you know it's Perisclaw versus you is when you don't have the header. So for instance, I said, add this to my home bookmarks list. That is me because there is no header. Anywhere where that comes with the Perisclaw header is my agent talking to me, right? And it's just added to it. The beautiful part is you just talk to your claw. So you can say, hey, catch me up on last 24 hours. Right? So it will just look through my chats. It will tell me what's happening on my chat, what should I be on top of in the last 24 hours, right? So that's it just does things. And you of course can type and send it messages, but a lot of times you can also just leave it a voice note, right? So I tend to just ramble to my claw. So here it's told me, hey, this is what's happening, personal and family, this is what's happening, Perisclaw and work, people who are waiting on you, groups, someone's looking for this, want me to draft a reply. So it also suggests what it can do for you, right? So this is something that's very interesting. And then this people use across the board, schedule messages, reminders, etc. All of that can run from your self chat. Then there is the bit where it's interesting, right? So you can just say, you can invoke it in other groups. So you can, let, for instance, say, hey, this is like a friends group of ours that we have, saying claw summarize group, right? So the way you invoke it is you can tell it in the self chat to say, hey, can you go do these things? And it can do it without the header. So it can be you or it can be itself. But if you want to specifically invoke it in a chat, you just do this, right? So I said /claw, go through this. So it's gone through and it's told me, hey, there's a games poll, there's an offsite and hackathon discussion, there's an AI agents discussion, there's a World Cup discussion, right? So it's great. People use it for stupid things. Like when we started, people would use it extensively to roast other people. So they'd say, hey, Claw, roast this person, right? It's hilarious the way people would use it. So this is interesting. But I think where it becomes very valuable is when it can do autonomous tasks for you, right? So I'm saying, hey, Claw, let me just say coordinate a time with everyone in this group for next week, right? So what it will do here is it will check in with people and it will be like, hey, so Swap's asked me to coordinate a time. Can you tell me what time slots are available? Swapnika can do these times, etc., etc. Right? So then it can actually do this as a long running task. So here it's tagged all the other people. Actually, 3 slots that work for her. Let me know if any of these 3 slots work for you, right? And then I have, from one of my other messages, so someone says Wednesday is good. Let's go ahead, please. So we've had this runs every minute, so it doesn't sort of just bombard you with messages. So we run it like at a set interval, but it listens to this message, and after a minute or so, it says, "Cool, Wednesday sounds good. Let me just go ahead and lock this." Right. So I think around 10:49, 10:50, this should fire, and it will just come back and say, "Let's go ahead."
Yeah, this is amazing. How easy is it for somebody to set it up the first time?
So actually, let me just show that to you as well, right? So while it comes back here, yeah, see, done its scheduler time. It sent me the meeting links. I don't know why it's at digits, but typically it's sort of, I think it should be tagging the people here. But yeah, so it scheduled the time. It sends a meeting invite. All of you, I received it on my email right now. So that's how that works, right? So it can run when you're not even involved. So I can actually just open Perisclaw for you. So this is it, right? So when you log into Perisclaw, you typically have a QR code. And this QR code is what you would scan from your phone. So you open it in desktop and you scan the QR code, or you also have an option to use it via link, just a code, and the code literally says WhatsApp, right? So you can add that, and then it gets connected. That's all you do on WhatsApp. As soon as you do that, it will start a chat on your self chat. It will come as a pinned chat, so it gets automatically pinned for you. It shows up at the top. It will ask you 3 or 4 questions saying, hey, what's your name, what time zone, what are the things you want to get from me, and then it gets started. So it will take you about 30 seconds to a minute to set up your claw. It's as simple as that. So that's broadly it. I think we still have people signing up across the board. Yeah, someone sort of also redeemed my invite codes. But that's broadly it, I think, Bala. Anything else if you want to sort of focus on, happy to do that. But any other questions I need to take, happy to do that as well.
Yeah, I think we can go with questions. This is phenomenal.
Is this a free agent? So we are in early access, so it's completely free, but it is also, I mean, we don't have a lot of access codes, right? So that actually brings me to this, for the folks who are interested, that we do have a code for this team here. So it's so APPLAI, so applied AI. So APPLAI is the code you can use. We have a limited set of codes. I think it's either 30 or 50. So it is very much first come, first serve. So please go ahead and sort of, use the invite code. For now, this is free, right? We will be charging this at some point, but this is still very much something that we're continuing to build.
That's awesome. Swapnika, I have one question. So let's say if I want to, create my own custom skills, or I want to connect my own custom apps, is it possible for me to do that?
Very soon, Bala. So we have the MCP server that will go live, which means that you can convert it to sort of connect it to most MCP clients out there. And we also have a skills architecture now where you can write your own skills, right? So you can say that, hey, I want to write this skill that it's able to do. Like, for instance, one of my friends had built a rap skill saying every time this other friend messages, reply to him in rap, right? So you can build your own skills. So that's absolutely something that will be possible in the next, I think, in the next 2-3 days, we are going to launch that version.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think people are finding some problems with the code.
I will have my co-founder sort of, my CTO fix this. I think he's enabled it now. Can you just check it? Just enabled it. Please refresh the page. You should be able to use it. How did you figure the value versus pricing aspect of Claw? Honestly, it's still something very much work in progress, right? How we price it is one of the biggest questions sort of we are working with. It's something that you will know soon. Great. It seems to be working for people.
Awesome.
build whatever, right? So
Can
you can
you
absolutely do that.
can you briefly like walk through that process also? Like how do we integrate like with Periscope, like in order to connect like our customer to their WhatsApp, and maybe in a different session or today, like whatever feasible for you.
Very quick overview, right? So so if you go to periscope.app, you'll have an option to log in. So it'll be got console.periscope.app. So here again, we have a big MCP upgrade, so you'll be able to see this. Again, very much like Perisclaw, you just go to the dashboard, you will have an ad phone, you get a QR code, scan the QR and it's connected. Except like Perisclaw, this is a separate app. And in settings, you should be able to find the MCP connector, right? So go to MCP, it'll give you the steps on how do you connect it to MCPs. And once you install this MCP, you should be able to connect it to your Claude, OpenAI, any of
And one more question about the policies, like like in order to inform our customers like when they will get blocked or when like how to use this platform basically, like is there any policies that we can copy from your
So there's
particular?
docs for Periscope.app, extensive documentation. Best practices for WhatsApp outreach is what you should do. What do you do to ensure that WhatsApp bans are not triggered, right? What kind of, there are certain things that it does. Group creation, adding people en masse, doing a lot of outreach. These are known things that can trigger blocks. So this is what we tell most of our clients as well. They don't use it for this, but this is a disclaimer that we end up sort of sending to them regardless. And by the way, this for anyone wanting to build on top of this, we have an exhaustive set of APIs and webhooks here. So everything from regular WhatsApp chats, WhatsApp groups, WhatsApp communities, all of that, how do you sort of work with? And honestly, you can give this to your Claude agent and it should be able to build things.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Thanks.
A couple of other questions.
Can you talk about the stack you used to build Perisclaw? For us, again, everything is almost sort of grounds up, right? Like the channel is something that we built entirely on our own. We have taken cherry-picked best of OpenClaw. So for instance, our runtime and our compaction and sort of session management is from OpenClaw. But there are parts of Hermes that we've picked up, and then a lot of this is essentially built grounds up. Right. In terms of models, by the way, we use a range of models. We use Gemini Flash models. We use Sonnet models. We use Mistral for very sort of cheap pass at categorization. We use all of that. Thanks, Yashvir. Super. Could you please reshare the code? I will type the code here. It's APPLAI. So it's applied AI, right? So it's APPLAI is the code that you can use. Super. I think we are almost at the top of the hour, the 3 more minutes. What component or part is what you think will be most difficult for your competitors to emulate? I think it is honestly the entire harness. But for me, it is just the WhatsApp knowledge, right? Because how you manage the channel is a key part of it, because you'll be able to figure out models, you'll be able to figure out runtime, or you'll still be able to use OpenClaw and build a version of this. But how you build a channel is something that we deeply understand, right? Like that's the one thing that's going to be incredibly hard to understand, to build, just the deep WhatsApp knowledge.
Swapnika, so there is Meta also has launched their own agent, right? MetaBot or something like that. It appears in WhatsApp. I've never enabled access to that, but have you used it? Like, how do you see your product different from what they offer? And how do you see this changing in the future? Any thoughts around that?
Honestly, not much. I've actually not used this, Bala. I know a bunch of people, like I know some clients have it on, and you get a disclaimer saying the agent is live on this. I've not seen the agent doing anything. I've not seen the agent sort of, I think it sort of records things so you can ask it questions maybe later on. That's what I presume it does. But from everything that we have had conversations with Meta on, unfortunately for Meta, WhatsApp never tends to be the biggest priority because it's not the biggest revenue driver for them, right? Instagram is their ads are their biggest revenue driver. WhatsApp ads are a very small part of it. And this is very, very sad, but we've had a lot of conversations with Meta India, but Meta India is fantastic at sales, but the product continues to be with, US. And I don't think US understands WhatsApp. Right? They don't use WhatsApp. So it's being built out of a place that doesn't deeply understand the users who use it. So, and that's always been our sort of, pain point with them, but it is what it is.
Understood. Cool. All right. Cool. Any other questions, folks, before we close?
No, I think Bharat's already answered the question that Anshik had. Can we give Claw access only to certain chats? Yeah, you can say, hey, label these 20 chats as, this thing, and only sort of work on these chats. Everything else is completely off limits.
All right. Super. Cool. So we are on time. Swapnika, thank you so much. This was actually quite phenomenal. I think a lot of folks from the community will use it, including me. And we'll probably have some, new feature requests that will be coming your way.
Please. I think for us, we can never imagine what WhatsApp is used for. Like a friend of ours actually uses it to coordinate car pickups. Not my use case at all.
So
But-
good. So I work a lot I work a lot with these traditional industries, which are like people on the road, the mobility things, etc. So there are these large WhatsApp groups among cab drivers. This is intercities, intracities, go to Jaipur, Jodhpur, or even in Bangalore cities, etc. Where there is always conversations happening around where is the customer, where is a pickup happening, and there is a massive amount of coordination that happens completely over WhatsApp. Yeah, I think it's crazy the amount of GDP that just runs on WhatsApp in India.
Absolutely. It's insane the kind of, use cases we have seen also, right? We serve everyone from high-tech, drone companies all the way to people steel, companies that make steel and just very old traditional industries across the board.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate, coming on a weekend and taking us through this. We love the product. I think a lot of us will use it, and we'll ask for some more discounts once we launch the pricing.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks, guys. And if you're facing any issues, by the way, as soon as you log into Perisclaw, we also have a support number that's pinned, so you will know who to ping. So just feel free to ping us. We're always available.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Have a good day. Take care. Bye.
You too. Bye, folks. We'll put out the recording hopefully today or tomorrow, and we'll see you at the next session.